Welcome into Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery here in Locked On Sports Atlanta. Today on the show, we'll react to what we saw yesterday with the Falcons and the Saints. I have a message for Arthur Smith, and y'all tell me to trust Snit, so make sure you do the same thing. It's all next. Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery, Locked On Sports Atlanta.
This is Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, and it starts now.
Welcome into this Monday edition of Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery here in Locked On Sports Atlanta. Head to youtube.com, put Locked On Sports Atlanta into your search browser. Hit that subscribe button. We're pushing toward 4,000 subscribers. We appreciate everybody being a part of that community. We are free and available to download on all your favorite podcast platforms, including Spotify and Odyssey. Leave us a comment there and, of course, and a 5-star review. And as always, follow me on my personal Twitter page. That would be at JMCH316. Oh, man, did that suck yesterday. So, of course, the Falcons yesterday lose 27-26 on a last-second field goal by Will Lutz. By the way, how about all the Georgia State kickers in the game, right? Younghoe Koo, Will Lutz, right? All the Georgia State guys that were there. But anyway, so here's the thing. This is why this is frustrating, and we'll get into the minutia here in just a few minutes. But from the 35,000-foot view, right? You're a team that's probably not going to win a crap ton of games. Nobody's picking the Falcons to be 12-5, 13-4, 15-2, right? I mean, the Vegas odds, the people that build all those casinos out there say 4.5 is the over-under win total. So you're not a team picked to win a whole ton of games. So when you get an opportunity to close out and win a game, you have to do it. Now, maybe that's part of why you're not picked to win many games is because you're not good enough to close it out. But when you have an opportunity, you have to close that game out. And this is a team now that when you take in the last 3 years plus yesterday is 7-18 at home. 7-18 at home. And remember, one of those home wins over the last few years was last year in London against the Jets, which does count as a home game. So you've only won 6 games in Mercedes Benz starting in 2019, right? So you had all of these things going for you. Now, the minutia part of it. I know people are going to ask, well, who do you blame out there? I blame the fact that their defense took the foot off their gas pedal. You know, we saw, so there's a lot of good to take away from this, okay? But unfortunately, the NFL is a net result business. You have to win or lose. It's a net result business. And if you lose more than you win, they fire you and go put the next person in. So if you want to keep your job and build something for the long term, then you have to win more than you lose. It's not hard to figure all this out, right? So we dive into the minutia of some of the good things, okay? Number one, I thought the offensive line and the defensive line played much, much better. So you mean to tell me that when you get all the ham and egg jabronis, let's see, let's come up with some names. Let's use names like Mayfield, Dante Fowler, Stephen Means, Matt Hennessy. You mean to tell me that when you take those guys off the field and don't play them, that you might end up with better results? When you take some of the worst guys in the NFL and put anybody as a better opportunity to be a better personnel player at that position, you mean we have better results? Yeah. Shocking how that works out. When you don't play Stephen Means and Jalen Mayfield, it's amazing how you look better as a group. So I thought the offensive and defensive lines were terrific, at least for most of the game until the Falcons took their foot off the gas pedal. Now, we'll talk more here in just a minute, but first, let me talk about my friends over at BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all of your sports betting needs. Look, full bore in the NFL season. Baseball division races coming down. College football season cranked up, right? Everything is right there at your fingertips at betonline.net. It's got all of the best information you need for your sports wagering. It's got e-betting, scores, podcast information, Everything that you need is there at betonline.net. So take that mobile device, very simple, head to betonline.net, get all the information you need to be smarter in your sports wagering. Make the smart wagering information, get all the stats and everything that you need there. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all of your betting information. So the offensive and defensive line of scrimmage played well. Let me put it like this about Mariota, okay? What you saw with Mariota was some of the things that made him the second pick overall, and you saw some of the things that made him 3 teams in 7 years. Thought he did a nice job in giving them a different dimension running the football. Thought he made some nice passes, okay? His stats weren't bad. He was over 60% completion percentage, right? But, there were no touchdowns yesterday. There were no passing touchdowns in the game. And he only averaged 6.5 yards per attempt. So they didn't push the ball down the field like you need to do in today's NFL. Now, look, some of that will come and this, that, and the other. But the fumble, you can't do that. And that's why he's a quarterback that's on his 3rd team in 7 years looking for his next opportunity, right? That's the kind of play that even as the number 2 overall pick gets you on 3 teams in 7 years. Fair or unfair, whatever like that. That's the kind of defining moment plays was that fumble on 3rd down that put him in a 4th and 1. Now, should Arthur and those guys have gone for it? Possibly. I mean, you can certainly make a case, but that aside, I don't understand why Dean Pease and their defense, 4 sacks yesterday, 4 sacks yesterday. I don't understand why Dean Pease and that defense drop back in that soft zone, let Jameis, I should say Winston, not Mariota. Jameis Winston yesterday in that game had a perfect passer rating in the 4th quarter. Let me repeat that. Jameis Winston in the 4th quarter had a perfect passer rating. They took their foot off the gas, the things that were working early, Winston creating pressure, getting after him, because for 3 quarters of that game, they got after Winston. Even at times when they didn't get home and sack him, they got pressure on him, forced him into bad throws, forced him to hurry up. They did an outstanding job. And I thought they called a magnificent game through 3 quarters, and then the 4th quarter, they let Winston drop back and do what he wanted to do. A.J. Terrell got picked on yesterday, right? He's got to step it up. Look, guess what? You know what's not going to get easier next week? Cooper Kupp, the guy who had the best offensive season for wide receiver in NFL history last year. Tyler Lockett the week after that. Look, lots of outstanding wide receivers in this league. He's got to play better, right? But it was so frustrating that all of the things that we did through those first 3 quarters, we got away from. And that's the thing when we talk about changing the culture, winning, and all these kinds of things. So we're talking about Arthur Smith's press conference, which just blew my mind what he got into. But changing the culture means staying with what is working for all 4 quarters. Don't give up on something. Don't change up something. Look, they ran the football. They were fantastic yesterday running the football. Patterson had 22 carries, set a career high. He'd only had 16 carries in a game twice in his NFL career. He had 22 carries yesterday. Ran it for over 5 yards an attempt. Everything you could have wanted. Now, look, the wide receiver and pass catcher play, okay? I know Drake London had 5 catches. He also didn't have a catch in the red zone. Neither did Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts had, 2 catches yesterday? Drake London's catches were at the Falcons 21, Falcons 18, Falcons 39, the Falcons 25, and he had 1 catch in New Orleans territory where the line of scrimmage was at the 34-yard line. So they've got to get their red zone offense figured out because that's one of the other things we're sold on. Oh, big guys, catch radius, London, Pitts, and all that. Okay, well, your touchdowns came from Patterson running it in like you look like Earl Campbell on a play, and it came from Mariota scrambling one in, diving one in. They got to get better in their red zone offense. But the frustrating thing about yesterday is just the fact that they got away from what was working so well for 3 quarters. And to let Jameis Winston, who proved yesterday that, look, you let any quarterback in the NFL have time and do what he wants to do, he will pick anybody apart. Doesn't matter what the name is on the back of the jersey, NFL quarterbacks will pick you apart if you're not careful. Frustrating. Now it's on to the Rams, and we'll see what happens from there. All right, I have a message for Arthur Smith off of what he said at his presser yesterday. We'll talk about that next. Hitting Hard with Jon Chuckery, Locked on Sports Atlanta.